We had Will Ferrell on yesterday, and we were trying to plan a trip to Dublin a couple of years ago. And we thought, okay, let's maybe try to do it next year. It's Navy, Notre Dame, and Dublin. And then Will Ferrell says, I'm all in. And Will went to USC. He said, hey, I'll go, but I can't root for Notre Dame. I got to root for Navy. I said, that's fine. And then we put it out on social media, and then I saw where Brady Quinn commented that basically saying, and I'm paraphrasing, oh, is that the same Will Ferrell who heckled me on the sidelines when Notre Dame played USC? So we thought, well, give you equal time here. Brady Quinn joins us now, the Fox Sports college football analyst. What do you remember about Will Ferrell on the sidelines when USC played Notre Dame?
Well, I remember it pretty vividly. This guy behind our bench who kept yelling, hey, 10, your pants are too high. Your pants are too high. And I remember kind of turning slightly in my back up at the time. Tabby goes, dude, Will Ferrell's yelling at you. I was like, who? I was like, Will Ferrell, the actor? I turned back and sure enough, your pants are too high. And then I stood up and I thought, man, my pants are kind of high right now. Maybe I should pull them out a little bit. I mean, I've always had longer legs and a short torso, but I really never became self-conscious about it until Will Ferrell pointed it out. So as great as Matt and Reggie were, I think part of the tough part about going to the Coliseum was dealing with Will Ferrell heckling you and not being starstruck by it.
Did you say anything to him?
No, what are you going to say to Will Ferrell? I mean, it's not like you're going to have a better wit than he's going to have. And we were getting our ass kicked at the time, so I was a little more kind of conscious of that. I think I had separated my shoulder that game. And I'm pretty sure Tyrone Willingham, that was in the Coliseum my sophomore year, so 2004. And I was pretty sure he was going to get fired after the game. So I had a lot more going on inside my mind than trying to talk trash back and forth with Will Ferrell.
Have you crossed paths with Will since then?
I don't think so. Would
you like to go to Dublin with us when Notre Dame plays Navy, and you could join myself, the Danettes, and Will Ferrell?
It would be the trip of a lifetime. I'd be incredibly honored. I do have some requests, though. For starters, I think Guinness is involved in this, so I would have to, be a part of that somehow. I love Guinness. It does taste different over there.
Okay.
So that'd be part of this. And I would have to be strategically positioned behind Will so I can absolutely wear out both ears throughout the course of the game.
I like
as
that.
Notre Dame stomps out Navy in that matchup.
Would you wear high pants, though?
I probably would upon arrival, and then after, or I go the opposite. Maybe I don't wear any pants. And see if he notices.
Well,
he'll can't be too high if you don't wear any, Dan.
He'll challenge you since we saw him in old school. He has no problems taking off his pants.
That is true. You're not. There's no point of really challenging Will Ferrell. So I think maybe on the way in you wear him high, see if he says anything, and maybe he's like, oh, I remember that guy. He's the high pants guy. I remember that guy.
Brady and Fox's Big Noon kickoff crew will be in West Lafayette, and that Penn State-Purdue Thursday night. Coverage starts at 7 Eastern. While I have you, Notre Dame, Ohio State, and I don't know if your reaction was the same as your head coach when you saw that Ohio State is a 17.5-point favorite against Notre Dame.
Yes, it opened at 13, I think. So that number has climbed. I will ask everyone out there, hey, do you guys happen to remember? I know you've got a lot of help there in studio, Dan. What was Oregon last year as an underdog going into Columbus early in the season? You guys had 14.5, that kind of ringing in my ear. Does that sound about right, guys?
Paulie will look for that.
Yeah. I was there for that game, though. We were in Columbus, and I think it was as surprising as anyone watching Oregon run the football down Ohio State's throat.
And what do you have, Paulie?
Oregon at kickoff was getting 11 points.
Okay.
Yeah. It was surprising to see Oregon play Big Ten football in Columbus.
Yeah, and I think, people can say, well, that was early in C.J. Stroud's career. He threw for over 400 yards in that game.
Yeah.
Passing attack wasn't an issue. They flat out got beat. They were out-schemed defensively. They didn't make adjustments. And I think you could look through the course of the season last year and go look at the Michigan game. Michigan ran for, almost 300 yards in that loss in Ann Arbor. You go look at the Rose Bowl versus Utah. Utah rushed for over 200 yards against them. So that's why they brought in Jim Knowles as defensive coordinator, who, by the way, that scheme didn't hold up too well versus Notre Dame in the bowl game. So it's a bit surprising only because I think there's some question marks about Ohio State more so than people want to recognize. And Notre Dame's got an NFL offensive line, bottom line. They probably could be the more physical of the two. And that's what I expect to happen is try to control the game with the rushing attack. Look clearly on defense. You got your hands full with Jackson Smith and Jigba, CJ Stroud, and the wide receiver group. But if you can limit their big plays, shorten the game, limit Ohio State to 10, 11 possessions and play good red zone defense, by eliminating some of those big plays, you're going to be right there and hanging in that game with a shot to win.
If you ran Nebraska, let's say you're Trev Alberts, you're the athletic director at Nebraska. At what point do you think, and I still think there's high hopes for Nebraska, all those transfers, so maybe, they figure this out. But if they don't, at what point could you see them or would you make a change at the head coaching position?
It's an interesting question. And we talked about this morning on Fox Sports Radio. And one of the things I kind of posed was if the transfer portal existed when Scott Frost first took over, how fast would he be able to change over the roster to what he was looking for? Because you really couldn't for the first few years he was there. And I think part of that is, he's got equity within the university because of what he did as a player, but not so much what he's done as a coach. And that's why he's kind of on that leash right now with, all the staff changes he made offensively coming into the year. And now Mark Whipple, taking over, you find yourself in a position where if he could turn it over faster, would we be talking about Nebraska a little bit different? I mean, Palmer, for example, the other transfer wide receiver, both had big games. They were a big part of the game plan. Offensively, Casey Thompson looked phenomenal in the first half. All those things you're looking for out of some of those transfers to help kind of create that change, they're there. It's just going to take time. It's tough. I hate, first off, I love Scott Frost. I think anyone who sat down with him, talked to him about ball, you like his demeanor, you understand where he's coming from. I just think that job's a lot harder than people realize coming into it. Very similar to Jim Harbaugh taking over Michigan. I think people act like he was taking over the job from Lloyd Carr. That wasn't the case. You had been through a number of head coaches to get that thing to transition to compete with Ohio State. Scott Frost is doing the same thing. This isn't the 90s Nebraska team that we recall seeing. And so it's going to take a while to get not only through the portal, but I think recruiting and everything else the way they need it to be. And honestly, probably moving on from some of the guys he was close to on his staff might have been the best thing for him. So now they can all kind of hold each other accountable, even though his post-game press conference comments might have made some waves.
We threw this name out. Urban Meyer. Back in the Big Ten, would he be welcomed back to coaching back in college?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I haven't talked to enough athletic directors or people in the know about that.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's been the most successful head coaches in college football history. Winning 3 national championships, doing in 2 different eras, BCS and the college football playoff, and in 2 different conferences. I think that's one thing that kind of stands out when you compare what he was able to accomplish as a college football head coach compared to some of the other greats is when you can do it in different conferences. Like understand what it takes to win the Big Ten, understand what it takes to win the SEC and to win a national championship at that point. It's completely different. And so, could he go back and kind of bring that back to Nebraska? I don't know.
Okay, more likely to go back into coaching, John Gruden or Urban Meyer?
Oh, geez. Let's see. How old is Gruden? 59?
He's a year older than Urban.
Yeah, I was going to say. I mean, they're both pretty young. I don't know. I think who knows if they both, I mean, obviously John Gruden wants to, he's been public about that.
Yeah.
I think it more depends upon what, if you want to be the team in the university to provide them that second chance, right? Like that's what it's more about. Who's going to put their name and reputation on the line to provide him a second chance to go do it. And that really probably stands for both, but there also has to be a desire to do it. I don't know that Coach Meyer wants to. I'd have to talk about that, have that conversation. I haven't had that conversation with him this year.
Before I let you go, you're off the board Super Bowl pick, so we're looking for value here.
Oh gosh,
nothing obvious.
Well, that's the hard thing.
Like the Bengals,
you guys.
Well, the Bengals were not obvious.
Yeah, well, I got a lot of flack for throwing the Jets under the bus earlier this spring and summer. I should just say the Jets, and so everyone's going to be so confused.
Yeah, but you don't believe that.
Oh, 100% I don't.
Okay.
Can I say the entire AFC West? Like I would say right now, do like a parlay, bet them all together. I don't know how that would work out, but whoever's going to represent the AFC.
Okay, so you box the AFC West.
Correct.
And so I don't know if you can do that.
Oh, you could do that, Dan. You can do pretty much anything these days.
Well, I'll let you know about going to Dublin next year at this time.
Please do. I would love the opportunity. I'm very honored to receive the invitation.
Sure. And how much?
Anytime to get back to my homeland and anything to get back. For a second, I thought you were talking about Dublin, Ohio, where I'm from. But then I realized I was talking about Dublin, Ireland. That makes sense.
Do you have an accent? Because we're demanding that everybody who goes has to be able to say, have some kind of accent there.
When I get drunk, yes.
Oh, so, okay. Great.
It comes out. It naturally comes out.
All right.
Like my grandpappy.
All right. Yeah, because Patty Fitzgerald just brought, Northwestern back there. So we had him on yesterday.
We lad down here, yeah.
All right, I like it.
It takes a few beers.
We can work. There'll be a few of those. Thank you, Brady, and have fun in West Lafayette, Indiana.
Will do.
Thank you, buddy. That's Brady Quinn, former Notre Dame quarterback. The big noon kickoff. We got Penn State. All right, I think we're getting a caravan here.